One of the most common questions I see asked on forums and on comments and on tabs about the 8-string guitar is, what tuning are you in? So let's talk about that a little bit. In this video, I'm going to cover a bunch of different tunings that people use, including the main two, as well as a bunch of other options for those of you who are just looking to change things up a little bit and introduce a little bit of chaos into your life. For those of you who are new here, welcome to 8 Metal Strings. I hope you can find some content on this channel that is useful in your journey to learn the 8-string guitar. Let's begin with what is probably the primary tuning system that people will use or start with on the 8-string guitar, and that's going to be F-sharp standard. F-sharp standard is named thusly not because it is the most popular necessarily, but because it takes the standard 6-string tuning of the guitar and continues the pattern of tuning by fourths. So we have our normal 6-string tuning of E, A, D, G, B, and E. And then below that, we have a B on string 7, and below that, an F sharp on string 8. This tuning is going to be very useful for those people who are shape-oriented and don't want to have to relearn the interval shapes or the chord shapes or scales on their low strings. It is going to be a challenge to learn the new notes of the bass string, as no longer are we rooted on an E, but an F sharp, so it's going to just throw a bit of a wrench into things, but at least the shapes that your fingers are used to are going to be the same. The second tuning that people use most often is going to be drop E tuning. Essentially what that is F sharp standard tuning, but then we're going to drop the 8th string down to an E. The benefits of this tuning system is that all of the notes on their lowest string are now going to be the same as when we were playing on 6th string, so you don't necessarily have to relearn all your bass notes. One other benefit to this tuning system is you get a couple of lower frequencies that you wouldn't be able to access otherwise in F sharp standard. This is great for those people who like heavy riffs based on low frequencies. The next tuning system that I have to cover here is made famous by Meshuggah, and that is F standard. This is essentially the same as F sharp standard, but every string is tuned down half a step. This almost harkens back to when bands in the 60s and 70s would tune their guitars down a half step to be E flat standard. So this tuning is going to be F, B flat, E flat, A flat, D flat, G flat, B flat, and E flat. Next, I just want to chat about a few other optional tuning systems that people have used in the past or that are possible for you to use in your own playing. Firstly, 8-string classical guitarist Paul Galbraith uses an 8-string in order to add 1 string lower and 1 string higher on the guitar neck. His tuning system starts with standard E, A, D, G, B, E, but those are on strings 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, and 2. He uses that 8th string to add an A below the E, and he uses the 1st string to add an A above E. By doing this, he can extend the range of the guitar in both directions. Another very interesting tuning system I found in my research is used by Charlie Hunter. Charlie Hunter is a jazz guitarist, probably most known for his work now on D'Angelo's album Voodoo, in which he plays the bass and the guitar simultaneously. He has stated in interviews that he used an 8-string guitar on that album, and he uses the low 3 strings as a bass and the upper 5 strings as a guitar. So that tuning would be E, A, and D as the lowest 3 strings of a bass guitar, and then A, D, G, B, E as the highest 5 strings of a regular guitar. Best of both worlds type situation. If you're into really heavy music that uses very low tunings, there's a chance that the guitar players are using either baritone guitars or 9-string guitars. We can kind of accomplish that tuning system on 8-string by tuning as if we are a 9-string and just leaving out that top string. The notes of this are like an F sharp standard tuning, except a C sharp is added below everything, and we leave out the high E. Now, beyond these tuning systems that have already been used by bands and musicians who are out there in the world, anything is really possible. For example, you could extend open tunings onto the 8th string, like open D, say, by tuning the low 7th string to an A and the low 8th string either staying on F sharp or going down to a D. You can also just kind of go at it like Joni Mitchell would and tune any string to whatever you want in order to achieve what you're trying to do musically. The possibilities are virtually endless. So my preferred tuning method is the most boring and standard, which is F sharp standard, and is also the tuning that I assume in all of the documents that I put out on this channel. Whatever your preference for tuning on the guitar is, I just recommend sticking with it long enough to get comfortable with it and learning the notes on those strings, and then from there you have a good starting point to play with other tunings and move around when you have to play other songs. It might also depend on what bands you like the most. For example, if you're playing a lot of Meshuggah, you might end up in F standard a lot of the time, or if you're playing a lot of Animals as Leaders, you will either be in F sharp standard or drop E and maybe a double drop C sharp once in a while. Just know that there's no optimal choice, it's all up to your preference and your hands. So that's it for today's video. Hopefully some of this information was useful to you, especially if you're just looking to get into 8-string guitar and you're unsure where to start with regard to tuning. For those of you who already play 8-string, let me know what tuning system you use in the comments down below and why you like it. Remember, you can support the channel by buying me a coffee down at the Buy Me a Coffee link in the description below. But with that said, I hope everyone has a great rest of your day wherever you are, and as always, happy practicing.